Hey guys, just another quick video. This one's going to be about building your rear pod. So I had a couple questions from some guys about this, and I just want to make sure you guys get this perfect, because this is really, I'd say, the most important part about building your car. And in the other video I was a little rushed to try and get through everything, so I didn't take as much time as I probably should have and wanted to. So really quickly, let me just explain what we're going to be doing here. Right now I have the suspension completely disassembled, so you can see there's nothing holding that front end on, that rear end, sorry, excuse me, that rear end together. And if you look here, I talked a little bit about this disparity between the front and rear, and also the necessity of those the outer diameter shims, which have a 3 millimeter outer diameter, 2 millimeter inner diameter, and the ones I use are 0.7 millimeters tall. You can see it here. So basically over here I have 0.7 millimeters plus point well, actually no, that one's less. Over here I have those PN armature shims, which I talked about, and those, if I did two of them, and oops, sorry about that. I did two of them, and you stack them together. I think they're about 0.5 millimeters on top of about 0.6 millimeters of those standard M2 shims, which have an outer diameter of 4 millimeters. And basically, you know, this is really important just so you have enough free play, because these atomic pivot ball links, they don't give you as much play as I like. I'm working on a way to get more with some different pivot ball options, but for the time being these seem to work the best, and I'd probably stick with these. So in here you probably want 1.1 millimeters of shimming, maybe 1 millimeter, and at the rear, okay, you have that 1.5 millimeters plus 0.7. Well, yeah, so that's about 2.2 or 2.1, probably closer to 2. So you want to have about a millimeter or less difference between the front and the back. And basically, if you have that difference of about 1 to 1.1 millimeters, then you have enough play, enough movement of the rear pod. Because remember, your standard 03 with a rear T-plate, you know, it has a lot of rear end movement, and that's not actually critical, because you think about it, when these cars corner, you're talking about, you have a ride height of maybe 2 millimeters tops, maybe 2.5 if you're running tall ride height, but I don't know why you would run that tall, but I guess 2.5 I'd say is about the tallest I'd run. Some people run 3, but then you have issues with flipping and sliding and poor handling and slow corner speed. So I'd stick with 2.5, maybe even 1.5 with this chassis, because, you know, it's really flat, unlike the regular 03, and it can handle that. And it's a little bit lighter, so you want that lower ride height. But basically, you only need 1.5, 2 millimeters of suspension travel each way. If you figure you only have 2 millimeters of ride height, because you want your bottom chassis to bottom out just before your suspension. So when you have that amount of play, that amount of shimming, you actually have 3 to 5 millimeters of suspension travel each way. So you're covered more than enough. You know, that's not an issue. It's not an issue of running out of suspension movement. It may feel like a little bit less, a lot less than what you're used to, but trust me when I say it's plenty. It really is. Same thing goes with the front to back. You know, you're only looking to bottom out that chassis, so a little bit more than enough to bottom out is more than enough. Right, so just keep that in mind. Basically, we're talking about, sorry for sidetracking about that, but we're talking about getting your suspension free. So if all you do is stack those standard PN shims, which are 4 millimeter outer diameter by 2 millimeter inner diameter by 0.2 millimeters, and you stack them up, you're going to run into issues where, as this rear brace starts to pivot on the pivot ball, it's going to hit those shims, and it's going to restrict your pod movement. Now, it really depends on how much you shim and you have to play with it. I found that I could get with those with those M2 shims, like the proper amount of movement, but it's more of a struggle, you know, and it's not worth the headache. And I spent 2 hours just working on getting that pod free. And basically, you want your pod to be ultra smooth. So I'm gonna try and do this. So if you can see, you know, there it is, up and down. Really, that's more than enough. And then your left to right, you're gonna hold on. See, your left to right, you want that to be smooth. Let's see if I can get this with one hand. See, you can see, yeah. I'm going left to right, and there's no binding, no clicking until I get to the very top, and that's just coming from hitting that rear pivot brace right there. And basically, that does those two places to put those screws, those grub screws to adjust your tweak. Does two things. First of all, it limits your pod travel. You don't want too much. Honestly, you don't need too much, and it's better just to have it where it's just right. And also, your tweak. You don't need to. I'm debating about myself with just taking those completely out, because you can adjust your tweak right here on the collars. But it's important to, when you set your chassis, right? You set everything. You put your links on, and you do 29 millimeters, like I said. It's important to go back and make sure that you don't get this binding. You know, sometimes you'll feel, and it wants to click, and it wants to stick, and doesn't want to be free and smooth, and that can drive a lot of problems. And basically, I found if you don't have it perfectly equal left and right, or if you have them too long or too short, it will cause that binding and that issue with you. And what you'll be able to tell if it's just right, okay, when you hold your chassis, right, you're gonna see your rear end's gonna sag a little bit, and you're also gonna see this angle, right? Your screw and the ball are gonna be angled a little bit towards the rear, okay, when that rear pod is at full sag. And basically, if that screw, when you mount everything, is angled upwards like this, okay, like that. Well, you can't see it because I have it perfect. But basically, when it sits level, when your pod sits level, that screw should also sit level within there. So you can kind of see it there. You see it sits even. You should make a 90-degree angle. And that means that you're going to have your front and back movements going to be smooth. Because you remember, your front and back movement are determined upon the pivot balls going front and back and the links. But your side to side is dependent upon you having the right length links, and then being able to just wobble enough, you see. And just make sure you go through and you take the time and you put the right amount of spacers here in your rear pivot area, underneath your nut there, and in between your chassis and, you can't see it, but in between your on this screw, on the bottom of that screw, right in here. Just take the time, really spend the time doing that, and you won't regret it. Because if you just kind of throw it together haphazardly and it binds, you're gonna be chasing setup issues till the cows come home, and it's gonna be a real headache. So please trust me and just do that correctly. If you have any questions, just email me, devinmalmadracing@gmail.com, or yeah, go to the website, go to contact. It should be there. demracing.net, just so you guys know, is the website. It should be on the form too. Do that. Please contact me. I really want everybody who gets their chassis to have it performing at optimal performance. So if that means that if you have a question or it's not working right, send me an email, and I'll work with you, because this is important and it needs to be addressed. So thanks, guys. Once again, good luck with your build, and hope all is well and that everything comes out nice. So take care.